Grahtwood Lore, Part 2. In the company of wood orcs, from the personal journal of Cicerone. Orcs are strange. They're unsubtle, brutish, and straightforward in just about every way. Certainly there is a variation in personality between individuals, but there are some things a Bosmer can always expect from an orc, none of which our culture can fully comprehend. Their wood orc cousins are stranger still, but for different reasons. They ironically share more commonalities with the Bosmer and are found mostly within Valenwood. Though wood orcs prize strength and honour above all else, their interpretation of what those things mean separates them from their northern Orsinium cousins. For instance, having strength to a wood orc means having agility and mobility as much as it does muscular power and endurance. I would like to hear an Orsinium orc's take on this topic, but I imagine that, if one considers an Orsinium orc is formed like a member of a heavy infantry regiment, then a wood orc is like a light skirmisher in the same army. The wood orcs, like Bosmer, also flourish in forested areas. They've made no pact with the green. By my bow, they have an utter disregard for a lack of knowledge of the green pact. But I wouldn't be surprised if they stood in Ifri's favour in some way, with the ease I've seen them navigate tree-laden regions. Why worry about this? I've had wood orcs on the mind lately. It's not difficult to when one has to be among them, as I have. I was ordered through their territory by my local battle reef to deliver a message, was told it would be easy to avoid detection. But wood orcs are very a different breed of orc, and as I've detailed above, when they caught me, no one, save a Bosmer, ever catches me. They noticed my presence in the trees above, though I suspected they may have been wary of something in their forest for days. I was ready though, and felled two of the trio who turned on me with the same arrow. I was taken aback. I'd expected to fell three, but the last one, inexplicably and in the most un-orcish fashion, bolted out of the way like lightning. I leapt, rolled to the ground just as a curved-handed axe whirled into the trees through the space where my heart would have been. I came to my feet with the dagger ready and parried a blow from the second hand axe that nearly shook the knife from my hand. The wood orc growled and swung again, and in that moment I couldn't have told him from his Orsinium cousins. He fought with agility and grace of my people, mixed with the honour-bound fury of the northern orcs. He managed to tear a deep wound in my side as I tossed a handful of dirt into his eyes. Half blinded by pain myself, I stumbled to relative safety in the darkness of the woods as he cursed and spat and called me coward who disguised himself with the forest instead of fighting with it. Ursine must have walked with me that day, for I was sure the battle was lost. The wood orc fought too ferociously and knew his own forest too well, but he never did manage to find me again. I would welcome a second contest, but in Bosmer territory. The Book of the Great Tree. Excerpts. All things to the tree. From the tree, all things. Iliad Prophecy. Let this be your first lesson. The roots of the first tree grasp all the ground on which you stand. When the rains and the winds come, it will be the roots that hold you firm. Under the roots lies Nirn, and over her boughs shines Aetherius. She provides both floor and roof. You need no other shelter. Azara roots grow along the banks of the slow-moving rivers. Pull it gently free of the mud, and wrap the roots in a damp cloth. Thus the plant may be transported. These will take root in pots and baskets of moss if they are kept moist enough. When the Salashi elves came first to the Elden Root, they were led to it by Meridia's shining colours, which told them this was her gift and blessing. The tree's branches and roots are as hands, reaching at once to the Mundus and the overworld. On this we built the Mundus's greatest city, and prove ourselves her highest and most honoured race. In the heat of summer, Shroud the leaves of the acacia in silk. The fruit will grow larger and sweeter if the growing process is thus slowed. It is said Y'ffre took its fallen fruit as tribute. The Olimeria plant is related to this, but will not bear fruit. You may know it as water hyacinth. When they arrived, they said, "This is the grove of the one great tree. This is the grove of sages, the Elden Grove. We brought with us life and knowledge, and in the shade of the great tree we will build classrooms and libraries, so that we would make a harvest of our legacy of intellect." The seed of the nirnroot may be carried great distances by birds and other creatures. Near the great tree, the fronds grow tall and lush. Further away, they may grow reedier and less hardy. Let this likewise be a lesson. The Devouring of Gilvardel by Faestor. Everyone knows what happened to Gilvardel, and at the same time, no one does. Legend has it that Molag Bal, the dreaded Daedric prince, set foot into that wood elf township, consumed it according to the myth, whatever that actually means. Ancient tales employ metaphors like armies employ soldiers. If Bal himself visited this plane with evil intent, why do any of us remain? The stories about him would lead one to believe he would not have stopped with the razing of a single wood elf town. He wouldn't have stopped until all of Tamriel was in flames. Just one common question of many regarding the Daedric prince's so-called visit. Some retort that perhaps someone stopped him, perhaps an opposing Daedric prince, a divine or an agent of the Aedra. But again, where's the evidence for this? No mage or historian that I've spoken to at least has been able to reference a specific text for this information. Many a historical fiction piece has attempted to dramatize what occurred there, but none of those stories can be confirmed, except to say that a catastrophic event struck the town. Perhaps the residents were killed, perhaps they fled. None were ever heard from again, but for all anyone knows, a large fire could have been the culprit. I can't imagine anything more catastrophic than that to a wood elf dwelling. Today, Gilvardel is a maligned place, and there are not many who dare to venture near, but not because of any tangible foes, save cowardice and superstition. The Legend of Vastari by Afwa, a student and friend. Nemocracies known to many as a binding of souls to a form prepared or in some cases manufactured by the conjurer. While technically accurate, the implication is that souls bound in this manner are imprisoned against their will with no hope of release. Further implied, this idea is that the souls occupying the construct are always sentient, the souls of men or mer, a fallacy perpetuated by the practice of animating corpses for martial or manual labor. It is this misunderstanding and potential for abuse that led to the vilification of necromancy and the expulsion of Manamako and his peers from the Isle of Artaeum. Enter Vastari, a student of the Sigic order and contemporary of such nobles as Vanus, Galarian, and Manamako. While Manamako sought power through the direct application of necromantic energies, Vastari's purposes were far more esoteric. She sought a way to delay the release of the sentient soul upon death, that it might be consulted, its knowledge recorded for the ages. It is to this end that she worked with Manamako after leaving Artaeum, searching for a way to trap souls, as one might capture lesser Daedra. Believing the secret lay with Molag Bal, the two conspired to enter Cold Harbor and wrested from the father of vampires himself. Together they hatched a plan. With a brash courage known only to the young, Manamako and his followers held open a portal to the prince's realm. Ever thirsting for adventure, it was Vastari who entered its depths and returned with a cache of black crystals the likes of which they had never seen. To Manamako they were perfect, small, capable of containing even the most willful of souls, and apparently indestructible. To Vastari they were deeply flawed, for enchantment was the only safe way to free a soul from their depths. Even so, She set about the task of reproducing the stones, breaking them down, testing them with a variety of substances, until, by a happy accident, she created something new, the first sigil geode. Clear as crystal, this new device was capable of holding sentient souls within its depths, but unlike the gems wrested from the Lord of Domination, it was exceptionally fragile and would only hold its charge for a matter of days. Once imprisoned, souls could be transferred between geodes, but applying them as one would a soul gem affected the soul's release instead. Vastari had found what she was looking for, but Manamako was furious. What use was a soul gem that could not be used to fuel an enchantment? He demanded Vastari find a way to modify her creation to his purposes. Realizing her friend would never stop searching, and that further discoveries made with him would only advance his goals, she gathered up her research and left with Telekar, her husband, and a powerful necromancer in his own right. Together, they fled Manamako's grasp, eventually hiding in an Ayleid ruin deep within Valenwood. There, they lived for many years, as quietly as they could, while perfecting their art. For decades, they had each other and seemed happy, until the day Vastari left. In the years that followed, she wandered the surface of Nirn, exploring places of power. She visited Wayrest, Alakir, the Crystal Towers, and the libraries of Dune, searching for some answer to the question that gnawed at her very soul. In time, she found what she was looking for and returned to Valenwood, and there she built a tower and took on apprentices, teaching them her particular brand of necromancy and furthering her research. Using her sigil geodes, we bound the souls of Lesser Daedra, postponing their return to oblivion as one might with a soul gem. We then worked on a way to manifest the trapped spirits in the world. Early attempts had unexpected, even dangerous results. Geodes shattered, sending shards of broken crystal into the flesh of our fellow students. Misapplied energies bound the souls of the living into tiny stones, but as we studied, we corrected our mistakes and refined our processes. Eventually, Vastari had it down to a science. By applying a sigil geode at the moment of death, a soul could be suspended within its depths. Through applied conjuration, it could be drawn into an ectoplasmic shell where it could be consulted at leisure. She wrote the founding Mages Guild of her discovery. Vanis Galarian himself came to witness her demonstration, which involved consulting an old groundskeeper who had volunteered to demonstrate the process. He was horrified when she bound the soul into her apparatus, and when the process was completed, with the old groundskeeper was released and allowed to return to Aetherius, he was white as a sheet. Slowly, he stood to address the assembled students. He spoke with a vindictiveness and an anger none would expect from his unassuming mien. When he was finished, he turned and left. Some followed him. None could blame them. He wasn't wrong. The sigil geode was a dangerous creation. Misused, it could spark wars and bring about the destruction unheard of in our history. Vastari was undeterred and convinced that Galarian's willful ignorance would lead to his undoing. But something else was to gain her attention in the years to come. A vast ruin was discovered beneath her tower's foundation, concealed from sight and scrying by the power of a Daedric prince. In time, she walked into those ruins and never came out. Some of us still await her return. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.